Greetings, everyone. After carefully reading the judgment delivered by the Gauteng North High Court uh, in the matters relating to the Zimbabwe, or in the matter relating to the Zimbabwe exemption permit, and also after listening to a number of commentators on television, radio, and on various social media platforms, we are of the view that under the circumstances, the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permit should continue to apply for the waivers and to move to other visas. Those that can. I know that others are going to slap me for this, but let's put this into context. The judgment says, and under the order, and I will read you, it's a paragraph 147.3. The matter is remitted back to the first respondent for reconsideration following a fair process that complies with the requirements of sections 3 and 4 of the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act of 2000. The judgment does not instruct the minister to grant any new permit. You recall there was ZEP, ZSP, now ZEP. It doesn't direct the minister to renew the Zimbabwe exemption permit. That's our understanding. The judgment does not direct the minister to extend the Zimbabwe exemption permit or to renew the Zimbabwe exemption permits. The judgment says the process was unfair, unconstitutional, unlawful, which is invalid, the process of termination. And the judgment then says, the first respondent, who happens to be the Minister of Home Affairs, must embark on a fair process. The fair process requires consultation with the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits on the impact of not extending or not renewing the Zimbabwe exemption permits. The court grants the minister 12 months. We will talk later about the appeal by the minister. Let's try to confine ourselves to this judgment. Assuming the minister were not appealing this judgment, the minister will commence the consultation process as directed by the Gauteng North High Court. The minister will not only consult plus or minus 178,000 holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, but will consult civil society. This consultation process might be in two forms. The consultation with the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits would to write to each holder of ZEP to say, I, as the Minister of Home Affairs, have taken a decision not to renew the Zimbabwe exemption permit. Please state your own circumstances on how this is going to impact on you. It is common cause that there are holders of ZEP who have children in South Africa. And there are those who do not have children in South Africa. So the court, as I understand it, wants each person who's a holder of ZEP to state their circumstances on how this will affect them, the non-renewal of ZEP. When Cabinet announced on the 25th of November 2021 that it was not extending the Zimbabwe exemption payments or renewing them, we said the majority of the holders of ZEP do not qualify to move to other visas because they do not meet the requirements as set out in the Immigration Act. If one looks into the various visas, the minister says there are 17 of them. Excuse. The minister says there are 17 of them. The majority of ZEP holders do not qualify. We raised this with the Director General and the Minister to say, while we respect your decision, but these are the requirements. And he as a petrol attendant does not qualify to move to another visa in terms of the requirements that are stated there. And indeed, in 2022, most people who applied to move were rejected because they had to apply for waivers, they were rejected. It was only in 2023, around March, that the minister said was signing waivers. Now, if a domestic worker excuse me, if a domestic worker approaches the minister and says, the Honorable Minister has been working as a domestic worker for the past 15 years, looking after the elderly people, I cannot move to another visa. And the minister then assesses this domestic worker. And the minister says, I agree with you and your employers that because they are now old, if you leave your job because you do not have a visa, this is going to affect their health. They will not cope with a new person. So under the circumstances, and given your own circumstances, and that's the minister, given your own circumstances, I will move you from the ZEP to a general work visa. Once you are on a general work visa, after 5 years, you can then apply for a permanent residence. And this domestic worker gets granted. because she has made a presentation to the minister. And the minister has considered the presentation. The minister grants this domestic worker a waiver. The domestic worker then gets granted a general worker visa. And after 5 years, the domestic worker qualifies for a permanent residence permit. This means that this domestic worker has abandoned the ZEP or has been moved from ZEP. So by the expiry of the order of the High Court, that is 28th of June 2024, this domestic worker is now a holder of a 5-year general working visa. He has managed in the 12 months, managed to apply for the study visa of the children, if he has children in South Africa, and the other dependents. And the domestic worker is on a visa that allows them to renew when it expires. It does not now depend on negotiations. We then of the view that if that were to be the case, it would be welcome, because what we seek is to be documented in South Africa. That's the primary objective. Is for us to be documented and our dependents who were not part of the special permits from 2010 to also be documented under us. That's what the ZEP holder seeks. So the 12 months granted by the court, it's a relief to holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, in that it gives them time to make a representation to the minister. And I would have hoped that the minister would then say, I will do the consultation. Let each and everyone who has not yet applied for a waiver make these representations. I consider their cases. Maybe I might be wrong. Maybe the waiver application, because the minister says is signing waivers, maybe is already in that process of considering circumstances of each ZEP holder who submits a waiver application, to say, because this is your own circumstances, I grant you a waiver to apply for any other mainstream visa, so that at the end of the 12 months by the High Court, at least every ZEP holder is documented. Because, as I say, the primary objective is to ensure that every ZEP holder is documented. Once they are documented, their dependents also benefit from them. Now, so this is why I was saying, while the minister is appealing, and I said for now we park the appeal by the minister, but while the minister is appealing, our advice is that people should apply for waivers and to move to other visas. I've heard some comments from others saying, those who applied for waivers should be refunded. I do not know on what basis. Because if the minister is to accept the judgment and then not appeal it, the minister will then consult as per the judgment. I've already spoken about the ZEP holders. But who are the other people that the minister will consult? The minister might decide to go a political route in consultation. Because we should bear in mind that there's an election in 2024 in South Africa. So the minister might go to through what is called the public participation and say, in the interest of justice, I have to consult citizens of this country. The minister might call a meeting at Orlando Hall. Operation Dudula, Soweto Parliament mobilizes its structures. And the minister says, I want to hear your views on what I should do. The minister goes to Diepsloot where there is violence. He goes to Khayelitsha, to all the townships, rural communities, consulting the public. The minister might consult the political parties that are right-wing. We all know them. If the minister consults the party led by Mackenzie, we know what they are going to say. Right? And after 12 months, the minister might even approach Parliament as part of the consultation to say, what should I do? And Parliament might say, no, terminate the ZEP. The public out there will say, terminate the ZEP. And this will become a political game. Because the 12 months set by the High Court is within the election period. The minister is a deployee of the African National Congress. And the minister cannot, as a deployee of the African National Congress, do anything that will affect the electoral performance of the African National Congress. So if you then wait, you stay away from applying, say the court has made this decision, I will not apply for a waiver, I will not move, I will wait for the entire process. This is indeed political. While the courts have expressed themselves guided by the Constitution, but you then have overwhelming majority of South Africans in communities saying no to the Zimbabwe exemption payments. But you are better off, as I used the example of a domestic worker, where the minister says, I understand that you have worked in South Africa for 20 years. I'm terminating the ZEP. But the court says I did not consult you. Now that I've consulted you and I've understood your own circumstances, I'm moving you from ZEP to a general work visa for 5 years, which is renewable. And after 5 years, you qualify for a permanent residence. This is what the majority of ZEP holders want. Because to an ordinary ZEP holder, it is about being legal in South Africa. Whether the visa that you have is called Zimbabwe exemption permit, whether it is called general work visa, or whatever the name, the majority of holders of ZEP do not care. What they care about is that they are legal in the country, they are able to work, to have their bank accounts active, to run their businesses legally, to have their kids attending school without any interruptions. That's what an ordinary ZEP holder wants. So as I'm concluding, apply for a waiver. That's the advice from us. Apply for a waiver. Apply to move to another visa. Ours is to check with the minister and the department to say, people have been applying for waivers. What is the situation? Are you still signing waivers for those that want to move to other visas? Please share your views. Write in the comment section. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mabena. It's the 3rd of July 2023. Is my 53rd birthday. Thank you so much. I've seen quite a number of messages. Thank you so much. Please like this video, subscribe, and follow.